15.
And we can just start. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Sorry. Good evening. My name is Rosemary Goldberg. I'd like to welcome you to this Candidates Forum on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Atlantic County and the Cherry Hill Zone PTA. I will be your monitor this evening. I am on the board of the Atlantic County League and am joined by a fellow member, Miriam Southend, who will be our timekeeper this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. This means that we never support or oppose individual candidates or political parties for any elective office. The League of Women Voters welcomes all adult citizens, women and men and students as young as 16 who support our mission. Membership in the League provides opportunities to be involved in unique activities, including aspects of the political process, without running for office or being active in a political party. For example, keeping time and moderating the forum are both valuable and interesting experiences. We'll train you. Registering voters is always rewarding. In a naturalization ceremony, registering new citizens is inspirational. Attending a council meeting wearing a button puts officials on notice that the League is watching. If any of this sounds interesting and you would like to join us, please log on to lwvnj.org to become a member. The League also provides information about upcoming elections. This is provided by our general information website called Vote 411. Please search for it. We want to remind voters that there are 3 ways that they can vote this upcoming general election. 1, vote by mail ballot. Registered voters can apply for a vote by mail ballot by following the instructions found at vote.nj.gov or contacting their county clerk. Remember, vote by mail ballots cannot be returned to any early voting location or at any polling place for this election. Another way is in-person early voting. This is a new option, enables all registered voters to cast their ballot in person using a voting machine during a 9-day period prior to election day. You can now choose to vote in person when it's most convenient for your schedule. In-person early voting locations will be open Saturday, October 23rd through Sunday, October 31st. Hours will be Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. No appointment necessary. At your polling place on election day is your other option. You can vote in person at your polling place from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on election day, November 2nd. Moving on to tonight's forum and format, I wish to reiterate the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. Also, it is a league policy that the moderator must not be eligible to vote in the election being moderated and therefore should have no personal interest in the outcome. Both Miriam and I live in Atlantic County. I will now review the basic structure of the evening's forum. The timekeeper, Miriam, will give you a 15-second warning to candidates by holding up the yellow card. Then she will signal that the response time is up by showing the red card. For the 2-minute closing statement, the yellow card will indicate 30-second warning. I will allow candidates to briefly finish a sentence. Please come quickly to a conclusion when the time has run out. Time may not be banked or given to another candidate. In this election, we have 7 candidates vying for 3 3-year terms. 1 of the candidates is an incumbent. 6 of the candidates have joined us this evening. The forum will begin with opening statements, followed by audience questions submitted in advance by Cherry Hill voters. We will end with closing statements from the candidates. I will remind all candidates to stick to the issues relative to the Office of Board of Education member and not bring in personal matters or other matters unrelated to that office. Before we start, I'd like to introduce the candidates. Would you please raise your hand so that the viewers can see who you are? We have Carolina Bennett, Jennifer Fleischer, Nicholas Gaudio, John Topeka, Benjamin Rude, and Ilana Yaris. Thank you. Let us begin with the opening statements. The candidates will speak in random order. They each have 90 seconds with a 50-second warning. We begin with the opening statement for Sally Tom, who is unable to join us this evening. I will read her statement. Good evening. Thanks to the Cherry Hill Zone PTA and League of Women Voters for putting this together. Unfortunately, I can't attend in person this evening for medical reasons. I'm running for a 2nd term. This time, I'm honored to run with Carolina and John on the slate. I want to help build the best educational opportunities for our children in the district. I have lived in Cherry Hill for 25 years. I have 3 children who have graduated and 1 who is still in the Cherry Hill School District. I have participated in many school activities, including fundraising, organizing activities, etc. I am also very involved in other community activities and connected with many school-age children and parents. I listen to their concerns and suggestions. I give a voice to the community, especially the groups that have not been well represented historically. I have also run private businesses for the past 25 years and am well-versed in business management. I would like to continue working on the school curricula, improving facilities, and bringing technology up to date. We need to prepare our students for higher education and careers. We have a lot to do and need all the help from the community. We need to listen to the community to make prudent decisions. Let's work together to achieve more for our students. The school is their 2nd home. They deserve a better, modernized, safe place to study. There are a few reasons why I'm running again. Thank you for your continuing support and good luck to my fellow candidates, Sally Tom. Okay, and first tonight, President Mr. Topeka, you have 60 seconds to share.
Hello, my name is John Topeka. I'm running for school board under the slogan, responsible, invested, bold. My wife Jennifer and I have been residents of Cherry Hill for 11 years. We have 2 boys, Walter and Oliver, who are 4 and 2 years old. I grew up in Philadelphia, went to Father Judd's High School, graduated from Holy Family University with a master's degree in human resources and a bachelor's degree in management marketing. I'm also a certified professional food safety through the National Environmental Health Association. And professionally, I'm manager of retail safety for a East Coast supermarket. Having children who have been out of school system for the next 20 years, I have a keen interest in maximizing the effectiveness of our school system. At this point, I'm about a year into the school thing with my kids. My 4-year-old's been at Barkley for last year and so far this year. I must say that the teachers have done a great job since resuming in-person education. He's made some great advancements. As a school board member, I'll challenge myself and others to make the best decisions for our children and our neighbors. I feel that I can ask the tough questions to challenge the status quo. As residents of Cherry Hill, We need school board members that are responsible, invested, and bold.
Thank you, Mr. Papica. Time's up. Just keep watching the timekeeper as you speak. Mrs. Fleischer?
Good evening. I want to thank the Zone PTA, Cherry Hill District, and the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. After 2 decades of volunteer leadership in our schools, many ask me why have I decided to run for the board now? After all, this is a time of unprecedented challenges for our communities, schools, and students in the midst of the pandemic. Well, this is exactly why I'm stepping forward, to serve and tackle problems facing our schools. As a daughter of a teacher and a school nurse, I was raised to believe that being part of a community was not a spectator sport. This has stuck with me my entire life. As a mother of 3, I hope I can instill these same values in my children as well. My priorities and efforts are focused on bringing people together to ensure kids receive quality, inclusive, and in-person public education. By advocating for Cherry Hill's fair share of state funding and ensuring fiscal discipline, we can maintain and strengthen our outstanding schools, which are also a key to supporting property values for all of our neighbors. For those who have worked with me during my tenure as Zone PTA Chair, Stockton and Rosa PTA President, or on numerous district-wide committees, you know I believe in treating people with dignity and respect. Tonight is no exception. I look forward to the next couple of hours where we can share our thoughts about challenges we will face and move into our schools forward. Thank you.
Mr. Rude?
Thanks so much to the Zone PTA and League of Women Voters for making the event possible. My name is Dr. Benjamin Rude. I'm an educator, a scientist, and most importantly, a proud dad. I have 2 kids in the Cherry Hill Public Schools, one at East and one at Rosa. And they're my inspiration for being here. I'm running for the board because my son asked me to. I'm not really a politician, and I never envisioned running for any kind of office. I don't really like being up in front of people like this. But I'm a problem solver, and my high schooler, the real politician in the family, started telling me about some of the ways he felt we could improve our schools. And so I decided to run. One of the many issues he's passionate about and that I'm passionate about is mental health. A survey done at East in 2019 found that 18% of students felt like they were getting their mental health needs met. So I'd like to be an advocate for those students, for all students, and to make sure that we're creating policy that really improves their lives, that improves the school buildings, improves the lives of the teachers and the students, and that we can really come up with policies to really make everybody's lives just a little bit better. So I appreciate the time that you've given me here, and I look forward to answering questions tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Mrs. Yaris?
Thank you to Zone PTA and the League of Women Voters for holding this event tonight. As a mom of 5, I have always been involved in my children's schools, volunteering for PTA events and serving on PTA boards. I currently serve as president of the Berkeley Early Childhood Center. I'm a member of Zone PTA and serve on the pandemic response team for Berkeley. In the past, I've served on the district ad hoc committee for the bond referendum and have been a regular advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion within the schools and community at large, so that all students can participate in a variety of activities without being excluded based on their identity. I've worked in education since 2002, starting as a tutor and aide for autistic and other special needs students, moving to a teacher, and finally becoming an education director. Most recently, I am the executive director and operational officer of an educational institution. Having worked both with students and as a supervisor, I am prepared with fresh and innovative ideas to help the administration as a partner through the Board of Education, but will also question fiscally responsible decisions. I've been working virtually since 2018 with flexible scheduling, allowing more time to devote to family and community events. Any changes in the district over the next 18 years will have a direct impact on my children throughout their entire school careers, and I want to be a voice at the table with the education they receive.
Thank you. And Mr. Gaudio?
Good evening. Thank you to the Cherry Hill Zone PTA and the League of Women Voters for hosting and administering this year's Candidates Forum. Thank you to all Cherry Hill residents for giving me the opportunity to represent all of you. My name is Nick Gaudio, and I've been a resident of Cherry Hill for the majority of my life, from Kingston through Carusi and West, having moved back to town as an adult 10 years ago so that my children could have the same excellent academic and social experience I did throughout my childhood. Prior to the COVID pandemic, my family's experience with the school system had been all positive. I cannot hold the administration and BoE responsible for any of their actions and decisions pertaining to the COVID-related emergency shutdown and remote schooling implementation through the end of last school year, as they were at the mercy of the governor's executive order to temporarily suspend in-person classroom activities as 2 weeks evolved into 4 months. I began to take issue with the BoE when they decided to limit last year's in-person school year to 2 half days per week, and then preemptively shut down in-person learning only a couple days before the commencement of the school year. Last school year was a lost academic year with over half the days remote for all students, very limited social interaction, and extremely limited physical education and exercise. Our district had the duty and obligation to provide adequate full-day in-person education for all of our students without violating any state or federal orders, and they failed us. They failed your children, and they failed my children. We can do better, and we must demand better.
Thank you. And Ms. Bennett.
I echo everyone's thanks to the Zone PTA, the voters, and of course, the community members of Cherry Hill who tuned in live and later. I'm Carolina Bevitt, and I'm a proud Cherry Hill resident and a stay-at-home mom to 3 elementary schoolers. I grew up in South Jersey before I moved to New York City to attend New York University to gain my undergraduate and master's degrees in elementary, English as a second language, and special education. I taught in New York City public schools in the Bronx and Manhattan before my family and I moved to Cherry Hill 7 years ago. In my free time, I enjoy going to Jersey Shore, specifically Sea Isle, and cooking and baking while listening to podcasts. I highly recommend Freakonomics and Hidden Brain. As a parent of young children attending Cherry Hill Public Schools, I am deeply invested. I've been an active PTA member since my oldest son entered kindergarten, a member of the Fair Funding Committee, as well as a substitute teacher in the district. As an experienced certified teacher and an active district participant, I have a broad view of Cherry Hill's strengths and weaknesses. After attending almost every board meeting last year, as well as Zone PTA, Fair Funding, Town Hall, and committee meetings when they were soon being in person, I've already proven that I have the time and enthusiasm to dedicate to this very important job of being a board member. If elected to the board, I pledge to always ask important questions, hold leadership accountable, and vote with integrity. My top priority will always be to ensure that every student in Cherry Hill has access to a safe, appropriate, and incomparable public education.
Thank you. Now we come to the question and answer portion of the forum. I have used my discretion as moderator to select as many different questions as possible in the available time we have. We will have time to ask 8 or 9 of the questions this evening. Some of the questions submitted by Cherry Hill residents were similar to each other. Please don't be upset if your particular question is not used. Candidates will be called in random order using a sequence I prepared in advance. My order is designed so that as much as possible, no candidate falls in any position like first or last more often than other candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question with a second warning. The first questions will be answered first by Ms. Bevitt, and here's the question. What does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you? And how will you help ensure all Cherry Hill Public Schools continue to implement it?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe that multiple perspectives do make for a well-rounded curriculum. I think that Cherry Hill should first and foremost focus on academic excellence, and that means collecting information from diverse voices and looking at diverse elements of history. I also think it means having diverse representatives throughout the community. I have noticed that a lot of the same names pop up on different school design committees. I'd love to see a more diverse panel of people invited to join those. I also support focusing on as many cultures as possible while still providing a comprehensive understanding of global history. I want our kids to build a strong foundation on core subjects such as reading, writing, math, and the arts and sciences, while still being challenged to develop their own critical thinking and reasoning skills that are necessary for success after graduation.
Thank you. And the second person to answer this question is Jennifer Fleischer.
Would you mind repeating the question for me?
Sure. What does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you? And how will you help ensure all Cherry Hill Public Schools continue to implement it?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion means a lot to Cherry Hill schools. We are very lucky to live in the district that we have, with many different committees that I've actually been involved with. Diversity means a lot of things, meaning special needs. I've worked a lot with the Cherry Hill Special Education PTA. It also means cultural, whether it's making sure we have available African American studies. It also means could be gender studies and LGBTQ+. I think the fact that we live in Cherry Hill in such a diverse community allows us all to get together, have wonderful talks, try to dialogue and cooperate and come up with different things, just like the African American Studies curriculum. And the African American Studies class that is going to be mandatory, I believe is a wonderful step in making sure that we become a beacon of light for a diverse school district.
Thank you. And third would be Mr. Gaudio.
Thank you. For one, diversity, equity, inclusion means treating everyone equally. It means not discriminating against anybody based on any demographic category and going at life with colorblind glasses on. We have to ensure that all children in our school system have equal opportunities for education, activities, sports. Children don't see differences in each other. They naturally don't. They make friends with everybody. They don't think of anything different about one another unless we adults bring that up to their attention and dwell on it. And we have to make sure that our educators and our school system do not do anything that's going to dwell on that or bring it to their attention that they're different than anyone else. So treat everybody the same. That's all we need to.
Thank you. And Mr. Papica?
So to me, diversity, equity, and inclusion means that every student gets a fair chance to be educated, to participate, and to grow as a person. So as a school board, we have a job of providing students with a curriculum that encourages them to think, to make their own kind of develop as how they want into life, not force them on how to think. So we need to put the curriculum out and say, teach them to think, and then they can turn around and take it and move on out of the school system. Not this is what to think. That's kind of worrying.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Root?
So diversity, equity, and inclusion to me means that we're listening to stories from everybody in our community, and we're learning about those stories about everybody in our community. I think that an ideal curriculum takes into account how many different groups of people have made this country what it is. And learning the history, learning accurate history, I think is important. Learning about different cultures, different ways of believing, different types of thinking, all help us to navigate what has become a really accessible world. You can travel almost anywhere in the world in a day, and being able to interact with any type of person out there is an important quality in today's education. And you get that by exposing kids to as many different things as you can, and making sure that all voices are heard in there.
Thank you. Mrs. John?
I think explaining how the Cherry Hill schools will implement DEI is important to explain what DEI means to me. And I think by hiring staff that looks different than the children that are going to the school or that have different life experiences helps to foster in children that there are other people out there besides themselves, and to view a broader picture of America, the melting pot of the world, where anyone can come and anyone can be who they want to be, and that gives them a diverse look on life. It gives them an explanation of different aspects of people and their equity, and including everyone regardless of race, religion.
Thank you. Moving on to the second question, and the first to respond to the second question will be Ms. Yanes. What is your opinion of the mandatory African American history course? What, if anything, would you change about it?
I am for the African American Studies course. In previous board meetings, I've spoken positively of it. I think the biggest indicator of why it is important is because students came to the district and said that they didn't see themselves represented in how African American studies in general was being taught. And by listening to the student voices in the district, they were able to come to a better class curriculum. I'd like to see how it's implemented over the course of this coming year before any definite changes are made for it. But as someone of the Jewish faith, I was happy that Holocaust curriculum was included in education, and so I'm glad to see other representations of other races.
Thank you. And second for this question is Mr. Rood.
So I think that the African American Studies course is an excellent idea. I think it begins a journey of diversifying our education and giving proper voice to stories that haven't been told in our educational system throughout the years. I know that thinking back to my early childhood education, it was very white. And there's a lot of stories and a lot of things that that feel like I missed out on learning about as a student. And I would love to see people of all races and ethnicities involved in the curriculum. There's a rich history of African Americans, of Hispanics, of Asians. I could go on, but there's rich history of many different peoples in this country. And I don't think that our curriculum has always reflected that. And I would love for it to do that. And I think that African American Studies is an awesome step in the right direction.
Thank you. And Mr. Patika?
Thank you. I do like the overall idea of it. A popular quote you always hear is, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But rehashing a comment from the person before me is growing up, we learned the same things over and over in history class. Every year was the same thing, over and over, all through grade school. I like the idea of developing and making a more world culture class. I did look at the curriculum that was put out by the district. The first two sections educate the students and gives them the ability to think and discern their own opinions. However, I feel the second two sections of it are more focused on telling them how to think. So back to my prior comment, I think the job of first half is great. You know, it educates and it looks like it gives them a thorough background, but especially when you look at where the content is coming from in sections 3 and 4, I feel we need to do some work on that, improve it before actually putting it in the classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bardia?
The Board of Ed should have implemented a course for all multicultural history, as opposed to insulting African Americans by sending the message that their culture does not fit into American history. Our curriculum should include all cultures equally. When I attended Cherry Hill West, we learned all about every major religion within the phys ed health program. Every single religion was taught about. We did not single out one or another to provide any dedicated interest to any particular party. I think we should be teaching history of all cultures at the same time throughout the school year. Segment it into, periods, 1 month or another, if you want to break it apart, but we shouldn't be isolating one course for one demographic as if they have a reason to feel insulted.
Thank you. Ms. Fleischer?
Yes, thank you. I embrace a curriculum that educates our children on the full scope of history, especially the African American Studies program. It is wonderful to hear that student voice took such a strong part in making this a wonderful addition to our curriculum in Cherry Hill. And I applaud the district for allowing that to happen and think the Board of Ed can even empower more student voice going forward. I would also like to see the history program overall for all of our kids updated and modernized to include all different cultures and all different stories. We live in such a diverse community. It would be wonderful to be able to lots of different cultures and different classes going forward.
And that it?
I do support the African American Studies course because I believe that African Americans do have a unique American history. It does fit into the fabric of American history, but it is unique. I'm very eager to hear feedback from students who go through the course and maybe even have an opportunity to see some of their final projects. I hope they can take the skills they learn in this course and apply it to all history they learn throughout their high school careers and the rest of their lives. What perspective is it from? Who's telling the story? Why the story is being told? I do worry that the architects and consultants for the curriculum all come from a very similar perspective. And going back to the last question about diversity, I think that also includes diversity of thought. There isn't one way to fix the systemic problems that our country faces. And if there were, there would be one book about it. There are multiple books about it. All perspectives should be learned in the class, and the kids should have an opportunity to evaluate and analyze them.
Thank you. Question number 3, and our first respondent will be Mrs. Fleischer. The $210 million school bond referendum presented to voters in the last election failed. What do you believe should be done to assist in its passage?
We need 21st century schools. Our facilities in Cherry Hill have a long way to go. I believe we need a comprehensive bond to make major impacts on our facilities. However, before going out with a bond, we owe it to our community to make a compelling case on why this is good for schools and good for our town. I found over the years our community is willing to rally around the cause, but it's incumbent upon the superintendent and board to present an engaging and exciting vision and plan for our residents and taxpayers. If we've learned anything from this pandemic, it's that technology isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. We've all seen firsthand some of our buildings and the need for basic construction improvements. And the facilities used for our extracurricular activities matter too. We need to help our residents appreciate the impact of good schools and how they have on our property value. So in the end, what is good for our schools and our kids is good for our taxpayers also.
Thank you. The second responder is Mrs. Bennett.
Could you repeat the question? one more
Surely. The $210 million school board bond referendum presented to voters in the last election failed. What do you believe should be done to assist in its passage?
Thank you. Well, I think the first thing has already been done. We hired a very respectful and reliable architect, Garrison Architects, who seems to have a lot of experience building bonds for schools who are in need of them. That being said, $210 million was a lot of money. I remember when I moved to the district, I hadn't lived here that long, and my husband and I, after agreeing to pay very high property taxes on our new home, were a little shell-shocked by that price. We didn't feel like our questions about why it was so expensive were adequately answered. Now that I've experienced some time in the district, I have a better understanding. So I think community outreach and question answering is really important. I also think the community has to understand that the school is responsibly using their money, our tax dollars. And finally, I think timely decisions need to be made so that nothing feels rushed. People feel like they have an appropriate amount of time to give feedback and make a decision.
Thank you. And the third person to respond to this is Ms. Yaris.
I think the most important piece of passing a bond is help from the key stakeholders in the district, and that would include the PTAs in all the schools, the teachers, the administrators, anyone who lives in the town who supports the district, to volunteer their time to help and speak, hold coffee meetings, speak to others in town, so that everyone is informed and aware, because we do pay high taxes in Cherry Hill, and our taxes will go up with the passage of a bond, but having the support of those in town who feel responsible for the bond and the improvements of our school will help in the passage of the bond.
Excuse me. Okay. Thank you very much. The fourth person is Mr. Rood.
So I think going forward, it's it's probably gonna be very important that a bond does get passed because there are so many structural and mechanical system improvements that need to be made in school. I think COVID kind of made us realize how important it is to update actual like air systems and everything so that you're not breathing in low quality air. We have to make sure that our schools are as modern as possible in terms of technology. And all of that stuff costs money, so bonds can be super important. But I think the thing that we need to do most in order to really reach out to the community is let them know what the money goes to, why it's important, and how it's going to improve not just the school buildings themselves, but how it's going to improve the community. What's it going to do for them? How is it going to enrich the lives of the students, and how is that going to translate into enriching the lives of the whole community? So I think it's really a thing about communication and transparency and really reaching out to the community.
Thank you. And number 5 is Mr. Papica.
Looking at the bond, what I think we need to do for the future is sit back and ask ourselves, what do we need to do now that's going to last the next 20 to 25 years? Because that's a major infusion of cash. You're not going to get more of it until my kids are looking where to put their kids in school. That's going to take 20 years to pay off a bond, another 2-3 years to write another bond. I mean, we're talking way in the future. Is $210 million enough to get us 25 years? Probably not. I think we need to look at additional sources of funding, whether it be corporate sponsorships, massive fundraisers outside of taxes, so that we can look more along the lines of building replacement versus building Band-Aids. So many Band-Aids after a while, it'll start to crumble. On top of that, when we do get there, aside from my other thoughts, we need to listen to the rest of the residents, listen to the teachers. What do they really want? What do they need? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gaudio.
$9,000 per year, the average tax bill for a property owner in Cherry Hill. We don't need to spend $210 million more of our residents' taxpayer money. Cut out all extraneous spending. Our tax dollars were spent on a wasted and inferior school year in 2020, 2021. Read to our budget intelligently to ensure that we are responsibly spending taxes that are already being paid by 70,000 residents. Explore our fair funding options. Get more from the state. Work with our legislators and our governor to get more of the money that our residents have paid in income tax back to our district to be spent on improvements that we need, capital improvements that are necessary in our buildings. Look into state grants, federal grants, county grants, all sources of funding, but do not raise our taxes anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you, just one moment, please? This is question number 4, and the first responder will be Mr. Gaudio. Cherry Hill Public School buildings and grounds are in disrepair. How, if at all, will you advocate for fair funding to address these concerns? Would you like me to repeat it?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. As I stated in my previous answer, fair funding. Our taxpayers pay income tax to the state of New Jersey. That income tax is redistributed to various school districts throughout the state at a much higher rate than our residents are paying into it. We need to look into all options, whether it's meeting with legislators. We have local representatives in the Assembly and the State Senate. We have county representatives. We have the governor himself and his executive branch of the state government. We need to meet with all of these different groups, different levels of government, different branches of government. And at the very worst case, we have to take litigation as an option to ensure that the state adequately and fairly gives money back to our district. It's discrimination otherwise. Thank you.
And for this question, number 2 is Mrs. Fletcher.
The state of New Jersey and its legislature has been catching up to do with keeping their promises to Cherry Hill in regards to fair funding. I helped support the creation of the Fair Funding Committee and I've met with legislators and state officials over the years to help firm up the support for complete funding of Cherry Hill schools. I will not stop if I am elected to the board. Cherry Hill should be receiving $29 million a year, but to date, the most we've received as of this year is $19.5. The lack of funds over the years has meant Cherry Hill District has lost out on more than $170 million of funding. And as you said, this has caused immense disrepair in our schools and our slowed curricular advancement at times and have negatively impacted every student that's gone through Cherry Hill. It is up to the Board of Education and the administration and our extremely engaged community to continue this hard-fought fight for each and every one of our 11,000 students.
Thank you. And Mr. Root, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, good.
Okay.
So I think the others have answered very nicely. It's absolutely critical that we engage with our state government. The fair funding law, it's a calculation, and you calculate some amount, and that's the amount that the Cherry Hill is supposed to get, but we're not getting that amount of money, which means that the state is not making good on the promises through the different funding mechanisms that the state has. So definitely that's a huge problem for Cherry Hill, and we need to do everything we can to fight for those dollars. Now, within that, we get what we get, and we can keep fighting, but we should also think about where can we, what are the most important projects, what should we work on first. I think it has to be a good balance of fighting for the money that we're owed and entitled to, but also making the absolute best use of the money that we do have.
Thank you. And Mrs. Bennett, do you want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay, very good. The Cherry Hill Public School buildings and grounds are in disrepair. How, if at all, will you advocate for fair funding to address these concerns?
Okay, first of all, I agree. I recently wrote an email to our head groundskeeper asking why the trees that were recently cut down at Stockton Elementary are now already growing back, which if they're left to grow, we'll just have to spend more money to remove them again. So upkeep is huge. Obviously, it requires money. I'd like to see our district leadership play a very vocal role in appealing to our local representatives to abide by S2, which may not be in effect anymore, I guess, if Governor Murphy doesn't win, but we'll see how that plays out. What I see is superintendents of other districts who are overfunded fighting to keep their money, and the public perception is that their money's being taken away from them unfairly, but really it's just a lack of education of the community for understanding exactly what the problem is. With that being said, even though our buildings and our grounds may be unsightly, obviously things need repair. I would like to, if a bond is passed, if we don't get fair funding, we should definitely prioritize the most pressing improvement projects. But really, our teachers are the heart of our schools, and they're what make them great. And even if we don't have shiny buildings and beautiful grounds, our kids are still getting a good education.
Thank you. And Ms. Jones, do you want me to repeat the question?
I believe about 10 years ago, our funding was cut tremendously, and there was a fight slightly from administration and a few local members of the community to increase our funding back to where it should have been. This past year, when local districts around us had their funding cut, all I could see were posts on social media about how their funding was cut, and we should do everything we can to increase our funding. I think it's important that the administration is fighting for Cherry Hill for our fair funding, but I think it's important to hear the voices of the community members, because if state legislators only hear from the administration, they won't think that there's buy-in from the community and won't feel it necessary to give us our fair funding, and without that fair funding, we can't improve our buildings and grounds as is necessary.
Thank you. And Mr. Papica.
So in regard to the fair funding and how we'll get more money, we need to be more vocal. There's 9 members of the school board, you got superintendent, assistant superintendent, whole slew of administrators, and generally speaking, are not allowed to speak. I know school boards got pretty much a complete silence rule social media. Yes, there's a school board ethics and all that, but use the power of the people we have to be vocal. Reach out to the state. If one person, one parent keeps emailing, Trenton, nothing's gonna get done. If you've got 30 people that work with the administration reaching out to Trenton, you're gonna start getting hurt. Get on, get in the media, get in the news. Shout, scream. As much as people that are losing their overfunding, we gotta be louder than that. But until that money gets here, we need to look for other sources for money. Look at the budget. Where are we spending? Where can we get extra money? We love committees. Get a committee to look for grants. Thank you.
Thank you. For question number 5, the first responder will be Mr. Kapika. Number 5. Despite open enrollment, the opportunity gap between the East and West persists. What is your plan to close this opportunity gap between schools? Would you like me to repeat it?
Now, I think a lot of that mindset comes from the parents. The kids know where they want to go. They go with their friends. As a whole, the curriculums are the same. When I moved to Cherry Hill, I went to the deli by my house, and he said, "Where did you move?" I found the deli. "Oh, you're East Side. What's that?" I had no idea. I bought a house in Cherry Hill. I bought into $9,000 a year tax. I had no idea there was East and the West. We push that in. Maybe we do more events between the schools that are not competitive, like football games. Encourage. We need to stop sending that mindset out and kind of encourage unity. Whether we have joint functions, at an off-site location that are equally sponsored, so we're not always saying East beat West or West beat East. It's a tough thing to beat. It would take a very long time to get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The second responder is Mrs. Yaris.
As someone who lives on the west side and is married to someone who grew up on the east side, I see the disparity between east and west because their question always comes up, "Oh, well, why did you move to the west side? Why didn't you stay on the east side?" I think that having all of the same classes offered for opportunity, especially at the high school level, is important for closing that gap. With open enrollment, I know German is only offered at East, but maybe there are students who go to East who live on the west side only because of German. Why can't we also offer German on the west side? And the same for other classes that are offered elsewhere. I think that West is a smaller school and allows for more opportunities for students who need a smaller class size, and that can help West side students that way. And I wish East would have a smaller school also, but I know that only one school can be big and one school can be small. If there's more, if there's less disparity between the two, maybe the opportunity gap could be closed.
Thank you. Ms. Bennett?
I honestly don't believe that this is an issue that the board can post solutions for. This is really something that's in the expertise of the administrators, right? As board members, we don't necessarily have expertise in education, not all of us do. As someone who does have expertise in education, I would like to see what the board, what the administration proposes to do to close the gaps, and I would evaluate them using my expertise. But I actually disagree with Mrs. Yaras about offering the same things at each school. I think diversifying the offerings and allowing students to choose things that they really prefer, different, maybe focus on sciences at West, or focus on humanities at East. Students could maybe choose what they prefer and where they think they'll excel, and preference would help drive success.
Thank you. And then fourth is Mrs. Fleischer.
Thank you. Historically, there has been a definite opportunity gap throughout the district. Closing this divide will take much hard work and creativity. The Board of Education can support many ways to help create a district that's fully engaged in bridging these gaps. This can be done by encouraging innovative curriculum approaches, such as the recently rolled out tracking of middle school math, or proponents of differentiated instruction for students. Supporting the teachers with strong, creative, and outside resources classroom engagement also. Lastly, we need to look at the health of our students and helping them achieve. Student voice in Cherry Hill led to the creation of School Start Time Committee that will continue this year. I fully support researching and instituting new start times. The Board of Ed must be willing to look outside the box for creative answers to close the divide on test scores by supporting teachers, staff, and administration in innovative curriculum changes, being open to reaching outside the district for cutting-edge resources, and being fully committed to support each student in Cherry Hill.
Thank you. And Mr. Reed, do you need me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
So being a more recent, moving to Cherry Hill more recently, 2018, I was kind of surprised by the whole East versus West thing, and how pervasive it is kind of in our Cherry Hill culture. And I think that it's important that we look at what factors may create disparities. So I think kind of studying what are the causes of test score disparity is important to find out. There may, I don't know, there may be socioeconomic differences between, I mean, Cherry Hill is a pretty big town and divided by a highway, and maybe there are differences that we need to address. But I think it's important that we have similar offerings at all of the schools so that children are getting the same opportunities. And if there are larger populations of students that need additional attention, we should be moving our resources to make sure that they're getting what they need to be able to excel, whether it's at East or West.
This moves us on to question number 6.
I
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Gaudio, I'm sorry.
It's okay. All right, so number one, we need to keep Rosa as a lottery middle school. This helps students from the west side of Cherry Hill feel comfortable attending East, and it helps children from the east side feel comfortable attending West. They make friends from both sides of town, and they feel included. They don't feel like an outsider by the time they get to high school. Let's be honest, there are significant financial differences between the east side and the west side. East side, generally speaking, on average, has a lot more money. More of the parents can afford tutors if they want that, then more of the parents may encourage greater academic progress on the east side than on the west side. Education is the same. Classroom experiences, however, are going to be different based on the classmates and friends that children have based on where they live and who they're going to school with. We should encourage similar academic kids who are similarly academic, to meet across town weekly in Zoom meetings to get to know each other better and feel comfortable.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I overlooked it.
Okay, no problem.
Question number 6, and the first responder will be Mr. Wood. Are you open to streaming the committee meetings so more community members are able to participate? Would you like me to repeat that?
No, I think that's a pretty easy question. I think in terms of transparency for the Board of Ed meetings and for the access to the community, I think streaming is actually one of the innovations that's broadly from COVID that is actually a really good thing. And I think that people should be able to have access through a stream, through streaming, and be able to give public comments from their homes. Not everybody can get out and give public comment at the school at a given time, but they may be able to do it from home or wherever they are with their device. I think it's absolutely a great innovation, and we should keep it up.
Thank you. And number 2 answer will be Mr. Gaudio.
Easy answer, yes. All meetings should be streamed. And also the Board of Ed members on those committees should be allowed hybrid participation in the meetings. They should be allowed to participate in person or at home. They may be on vacation with their families. They may be on a business trip. We all have lives outside of just the Board of Ed, but we should still be given an ample opportunity to participate just like every other Board of Ed member, whether we're in person or at home. I'm on other boards that allow hybrid participation, and there's no reason we can't do the same. So community should be allowed to dial in as well as the members on the committee themselves.
Thank you. And Mrs. Fletcher.
Thank you. Yes, I also agree that the committee meeting should be streamed live. I would say that there were 3 main reasons. The first being transparency to the process. It would be great for people to be able to see what is going on and feel more included. Secondly, the awareness of the issues from the very beginning. A lot of times we find out things towards the end of the process, if you're not able to go to the meetings in person. So it's nice that you have the opportunity to sort of listen in and see how the process goes in the district. And third is that there could be more input at the beginning part of the process from the community members. Like I said, sometimes at the Board of Ed, you end up securing things at the end of the process. For them to actually be able to listen and be included in sort of the process at the beginning, I think is a very big plus.
Thank you. Mr. Patika?
It looks like we might have a unanimous answer up here, but absolutely, everyone says they want to be transparent. The best way to do it is open up all the committee meetings, let the public participate. As it's stated, the more feedback you get early on, you end up with less fight at the end because those questions are already answered, the voices are already heard.
Thank you. Mrs. Bennett?
Resoundingly, yes. I definitely think that committee meetings should be accessible to as many people as possible. Just like you said, that really is where the meat of the board work is done. However, I do understand that there are limitations to making a committee meeting public like that. There's a quorum, and Robert's Rules of Order kind of don't necessarily allow for that to happen. So what we need to do is work with our solicitor and explore every avenue to make that possible while still working within the parameters of what's allowed for the board to do. A possible solution could be recording the meetings, maybe not live streaming it, and announcing it as a public meeting that will later be posted on YouTube or something like that. I don't know exactly, but I think where there's a will, there's a way, and we can figure out a way to make committee meetings more accessible within the rules of the board, how the board operates.
Thank you very much. And Mrs. Dyer?
As my fellow candidates have said, I also agree with having committee meetings be accessible to the public, whether or not they can attend in person. As Mrs. Bennett said before me, I don't know if necessarily they can be live streamed, that people can participate from the outside based on board standing rules. But do believe that if the meetings are available later for accessibility purposes, that would be ideal for transparency from the board. The bulk of the work for the Board of Education does happen at committee meetings and not at Board of Education meetings. So it is important that the public can know what is going on.
Thank you. Does anybody need a good drink of water or anything? If you're all okay, feeling good? Very good. This is question number 7, and the first responder will be Mrs. Bennett. How will you hold the superintendent accountable for their actions?
Well, that is one of the main responsibilities of the board. And I think the best way to do that is to set clear, measurable goals that are realistic and oversee that those goals are being met, have regular check-ins. Obviously, board meetings should be happening, asking as many questions as possible, and really clearly stating, making the board's will known to the superintendent, so he has a very clear direction of where to go. And then from there, we can evaluate if he is going in the direction that we've set.
Thank you. And for number 2, I'm sorry, excuse me. Number 2 would be Mr. Patika.
So one of the biggest parts of the school board is to set goals. So you're going to set your goals, manage them, communicate them clearly. You need to have an open give and take discussion based on the format. I'm assuming that happens, largely behind closed doors, but the more you talk, the more you communicate, the better you're going to be. And monitor those goals. See where we're at. What can we do as a board to help get to those goals? Despite anyone's opinion on prior outcomes, I personally don't want anyone to fail, especially the school system that I live in. So we need to do whatever we can to make a success. And if we're not going that way, we need to review the contractual obligations and, if necessary, take any steps that we have to do to rectify the situation.
Thank you. And number 3 is Mr. Rude. Do you need me to repeat the question?
So I think two things. I think that the idea of setting goals and meeting those goals is excellent. The other candidates have mentioned that. I think an additional thing that we really have to do is make sure we have open lines of communication, find out what the superintendent's goals are, and find out where they think things should go. A lot of us here who are looking to be on the Board of Education have variable levels of experience in education. The superintendent has many years of experience in education and has seen how the schools operate for many years. So I think being able to listen to where they're at and set goals accordingly and try to work on bridging the gap between what the superintendent thinks is most important and what the community thinks is most important is critical.
Thank you. Thank you. And Ms. Waters?
The board sets goals every year at the new board retreat that the administration is supposed to meet each year. And based on the meeting of these goals in a previous contract, the superintendent received merit pay and bonuses. With the new contract, I believe he just gets a standard increase in his pay. And so doing check-ins regularly at committee meetings and board meetings to make sure that the goals of the board are being met will help to hold the superintendent and administration in general accountable for their actions.
Thank you. And Mr. Gloria? Do you need me to repeat the question?
While the superintendent is employed by the Board of Education, the current Board of Education rushed a vote to renew his contract in the absence of several members that may have been opposed to that contract. So at this point, there's no choice but to accept that we have the same superintendent for the next 5 or 6 years, length of his contract. However, the board can override his decisions with a vote, but the current board is again full of pushovers who act as yes men to the superintendent. We have to push back on his decisions with motions that we have to pass actions to counter things he's doing that our own residents do not want. That's all. Push back.
Thank you. And Mrs. Bush?
Just repeat the question.
Sure. Absolutely. How will you hold the superintendent accountable for their actions?
Thank you. Since the Board of Education is responsible for overseeing the superintendent's position, I believe also about the fact that assessment goes a long way. But I also believe that gaining trust between the Board of Education and the superintendent is a big step that has to be taken. And also making sure that teamwork is more in the forefront. If there's teamwork between the Board of Ed and the superintendent, whoever that person will be, I've been lucky enough to serve with 5 different superintendents. So we're in the moment right now, but there is a history of Cherry Hill. So overall, I think if trust and teamwork with the Board of Education and the superintendent occurs, then it becomes a very successful district. And I think those are the main reasons that it would be great to have a wonderful relationship between the Board of Ed and the superintendent.
Thank you. Well, now moving to question number 8, and our first responder will be Mr. Claudio. How do you propose improving communication and transparency between the district and the community? Would you like to repeat that?
Okay, so currently our superintendent does a very good job at communicating with weekly addresses to the township, to the residents, and our principals, from my own experience with my children in middle school and elementary school, have also been very effective at communicating all kinds of information, everything needed to the parents. However, as a board, the Board of Education needs to open up all of its meetings, as we spoke earlier about the committee meetings, to the public, especially with a Zoom option. As long as the public has the opportunity to view everything, that's a good first step. However, the public needs to be able to respond to things and get a response from the actual Board of Ed. At our meetings, the public comment section portion of the meeting, at the very end of the regular bi-weekly meetings, the board does not respond to any of the questions or comments the public poses. That needs to change as well.
Thank you. Mrs. Roberts? Sure. How do you propose improving communication and transparency between the district and the community?
I believe that communication and transparency from the district is as good as it can be in a department of one. I believe that it's very important that our money and budget is spent on teachers and educating our students. But if we want to have more social media posts, more emails that don't need to be resent due to errors and the like, we need more than one person in that department.
Thank you. Mrs. Beckett?
I have a lot of thoughts about this. I think that communication is one of the greatest difficulties facing our district that's not academic or not building related. A lot of communication, like Mrs. Yars pointed out, that comes out of our district is either incorrect or unclear. I'd like to see communication improvements across the board. First, I'd like to see information dispersed in smaller chunks. We get a Friday email that has a lot of information in it. Sometimes important things get buried. I'd like to see more in-person events to gather community feedback with multiple opportunities to participate. I'd like to see more frequent surveys, not a thought exchange, focused on questions that are pressing our district. I also believe, like Mr. Gaudio mentioned, that the board president should be responding to public comments. I think the board members should be rotating membership in active community Facebook pages, because if they're not on Facebook, they're a little out of the loop. Again, thought exchange should probably be eliminated, and most of all, we need bold leadership from our board, people who are not afraid to communicate with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Root?
Okay, so I think that the biggest thing we can do toward transparency for the Board of Education is to make sure all of the meetings are accessible to all people. One of the things that's problematic with the board is you'll see, I've seen that you'll have like a brief discussion on something and then there will be a vote, but you never see what went on behind the scenes to get to that vote and why a lot of the debate goes unseen. So I think having all of the discussion of the Board of Ed should be accessible to the community. That's one. I think by using the virtual participation, that will really help to facilitate making more of the Board of Ed accessible to the community. So I think that's the primary thing, is opening up access and making sure we're available to the community.
Thank you. Mrs. Fleischer?
Thank you. I believe that the Board of Education members and the community need to have more of an open communication. Though I know there are regulations that impact the interactions, I believe there is much more that can be done to promote dialogue, transparency, and collaboration with our entire community. To start, there should be a place on the agenda dedicated to each member of the board to make their own brief remarks to the public. Board members should also continue to be present at events throughout the district in our community, such as zone PTA meetings, which they already do have a rep, school PTA meetings, and overall community events. Periodic meet and greets would be great with the board and community. That would be very important. If we give it a fun name like Bagels with the Board for like a morning session or something like that, each of these interactions provide the opportunity to engage with the community and give a feeling of transparency, increasing, and awareness to families of the district. The Board of Education is a team working for you as residents and the Cherry Hill people.
Thank you. And Mr. Christie?
So a lot of great ideas bouncing around here at the parent to teacher to school communication level. I feel it's great right now. I hear from my son's teacher regularly through class dojo. I have a principal through email. The secretary is always available. When you get to the, I guess, the top down is where I think we need some work, so to speak. We already discussed opening up the all the board meeting and committee meetings. I think that's a step in the right direction. Perhaps we get a social media type group where the school board can interact with the public. Now, there's a whole lot with the New Jersey School Board Ethics Association, so we'd have to work with them to find out what is legal by the guidelines so that we don't have people get stopped with ethics violations, but making the board more accessible and be able to interact and stay their thought process would be a huge step. And I think once that middle that we don't see is smoothed out. Those school board meetings, you're not gonna see 50 people speaking out against the vote, just because everyone said yes real quick, and they didn't see the actual discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving into our last question, and the first responder will be Mrs. Yaris. What is your position regarding school start times for high school, middle school, and elementary school? Would you like to repeat that?
As the parent, not yet of a middle school or high schooler, but as an educator, I do understand the circadian rhythms of older students and how important it is for that they go to bed later and wake up later and later start times. I think as an overall, it's important based on the committees that are meeting within the district now to hear the feedback of students, because we have heard from many students and parents who want later start time. But if overall the district feels, or the opinion of the community is that later start time should not be done, then I think that we should just listen to the voice of the community. I personally feel that having later start times is okay for middle school and high school. I just think a lot of thought needs to go into how transportation, sports, extracurriculars, jobs, and other things would work with that.
Thank you. Mr. Papica.
Well, I may not be the best person for this question, because I'm both a night owl and an early bird, but currently high school starts first, and you can go any way with this, because you got your sports, your extracurriculars. When I was in high school, I did a lot of extracurriculars, and I worked 30, 40 hours a week. I needed the early start time. They're currently doing a survey right now. Despite how I personally feel, I think as far as my own personal times, we should look to what the survey says and honor it. It surveys all three school levels and see what they come up with. It may take some rework on our end as far as buses and all the other stuff goes, but truly looking for feedback. If we actually get sufficient feedback from the community, we should follow it.
Excuse me, thank you very much. Mr. Gaudia?
Okay, for elementary schools, 9 AM, it's fine. Middle schools, 8 AM, it's a bit early, it should be moved back to 8:30. For high school, 7:30 is also too early, it should be moved back to 8 o'clock. It was this way when I was in school in Cherry Hill. I don't know why it changed. We had adequate sleep, there were no logistical issues, no complaints from students, no complaints from parents, plenty of time for extracurricular activities. I was heavily involved in varsity sports, music programs in school. I was in a ton of clubs. I was even in a rock band throughout that whole time. And I took almost all AP and honors classes all throughout school. There was no logistical issue whatsoever with starting high school at 8 AM instead of 7:30. All the schools should be moved back to those original times, 8, 8:30, and 9, going from high school, middle, and elementary, the way they have been. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bennett?
You. So Dr. Morton at this month's committee meeting set out a timeline for how this decision will be undertaken. So steering committee has been formed. He already, a survey has gone out, so if you haven't taken it, you should. It's very beautifully focused and it hits on major issues, I think, that would affect families and gives them opportunity for open-ended answers. Dr. Martin's timeline said that he'd like to present something to the board by January, which would be when 3 of us are members. So if I were to be elected, I would carefully consider the data that was collected and analyzed, and specifically consider the effects on the district at large, including costs. And to be honest, now with some of the transportation issues we've been facing, off-peak bus times might be beneficial to all students.
Thank you very much. Jennifer? I'm sorry, I did that again. This is fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate the inclusion of student voice in the discussion of the start times. I think it was wonderful. We've actually been talking about it for many, many years, but until the students got involved, really nothing happened. So I'm thankful for them to really make their voices heard and for the district to listening to them and the Board of Ed for listening to them. I actually personally saw a difference in our household during COVID. The high school students started at 9:30 or 9:45, and I have to tell you, my son was a big fan and will change the start times tomorrow if possible. But I understand there are many different layers to this. Now, the CDC says that middle school and high school students shouldn't start school before 8:30 a.m., which I think is very interesting. But the different layers being that we have elementary school students, we have middle school students, and we have to look at all the different factors in their family life and then also in transportation. So thankful for the survey. Like everyone said, please everyone take the survey. I think it would be a wonderful discussion.
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
So anecdotally, I remember my kids when they were elementary school age, routinely getting up at 6 a.m. and forcing me out of my sleep. And as they get older, they sleep later and later and later. And I think there's something biological to that. I think the CDC guidance of 8:30 start time speaks to that. So I'm in favor of the older kids having a later start time. I also think it's important that this isn't just a busing or a school start time issue. It's also a mental health issue. A well-rested student is a student that's more able to cope with the stress of school. And as you may know, as students reach that adolescent age of middle school and going to high school, that's when mental disorders, stress and anxiety and depression, all of those things really start to make more of an impact on kids. So I think anything that can keep them well rested and ready to cope with the day's school is going to be a better thing to do.
Thank you. As you can see, it's only 8:15 and we did do the 9 questions. We do have one other we would like to ask you this evening. And it is, what is your opinion of removing the magnet school status of the Rosa Middle School? Now, I'll do the order that we did for the first question. Ms. Bennett.
Thank you. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I have 3 elementary schoolers. So I have to be honest in saying that I don't at this point have a strong opinion personally on that matter. But if I were on the board and asked to evaluate that question, what I want to do is collect input from the entire community to see how everyone feels about it. So I heard Mr. Gaudio say that he likes having Rosa as a magnet school, but I've also had other community members say that they think it would be best if it were a community-based school. I do know that Rosa, a lot of complaints I've heard are that Rosa, maybe the facilities aren't quite up to date and that the building itself needs a lot of work. So if it were to be a community-based school, I would hope that we would put some resources into making it as to have it as resourceful as Carusi. In fact, and personally, we live very close to back, so I hope my students do choose back if it remains a magnet school.
Yes, thank you very much. Jen, I don't know why I'm so friendly with you tonight. Mrs. Fleischer.
That's fine, I am fine with that. Thank you. Having had kids at both Beck and Rosa, I understand this decision is difficult. I've been on both sides of the lottery, and each middle school has its own uniqueness. But the Rosa lottery has caused such a great division in our district with more parents than even with the kids. Rosa has also been transitioning out of IB for many years, so it's not a true IB experience. All of those factors have been taken into account. I think making middle schools geographical may be the best answer to consistency in our district for all middle school students. I do also believe that special programs instituted in all the middle schools should be shared and become part of best practices in our district. We need more consistency in our schools. There are so many creative and amazing teachers. I think gatherings with them together in a summit or a conference to come up with amazing new ideas or curricula when rolling out the idea to the community would be an amazing positive step. A way to have our families be excited for a new and exciting change, a new step forward, making Cherry Hill even better and more forward thinking.
Thank you. Mr. Gaudio.
Eliminating the magnet status of Rosa further separates East and West students. Rosa becomes a melting pot right now. It allows students from both sides of the town to come together voluntarily if they choose to do so. And they expand their exposure to socioeconomically diverse populations. Redistricting Rosa just furthers the divide between the east side and the west side.
Thank you. And Mr. Pika?
So I'm really mixed on it, but my wife actually taught at an IB school in another district, and from what I've seen, kind of goes, I don't quite see the allure of it, honestly. I feel that there's more effort spent on maintaining the status than there is educating the children. I know there's some other concerns there, but as a whole, I would not be opposed to it. I think we could probably get away from that, maintaining the title, and get back more to focus on education.
Thank you. Mr. Rude?
I don't really have a strong opinion on it, but one thing I have kind of heard through the grapevine is, Rosa is being great for the arts. What I would really like to see is all of the schools having excellent representation of the arts and science. I think that diverse educational backgrounds are important because kids need to find their niche as they're going through school. Some kids are going to rock in the sciences, some are going to love math, and some need an artistic outlet. And having one school that's designated as the more like arts and humanities school, which I think that's kind of the reputation of Rosa. It's great and all, but I know that kids need those at all the other schools too. So I don't really have an opinion on what they do with Rosa right now, but I'd love to see a little bit stronger push on the arts across the board.
Thank you. And Mrs. Yards?
It's my understanding from Cherry Hill history that the reason Rosa became a magnet school was due to the last bond, because it could not be considered a full-fledged middle school based on not having a stage. And I think there were a couple other key components. I don't know if there is a stage now at Rosa, and I know that when it was first started, there was an IB program, but with previous superintendents, it was slowly phased out. I believe that if Rosa were to actually I believe Rosa still possibly, unless the laws have changed, cannot be a middle school without a stage. So if there is a stage, I think having open enrollment at Rosa isn't nearly necessary anymore. But I think without the IB program there's no need for a magnet school. And although it's currently a melting pot for Cherry Hill, it will be the center of town, and it will take the kids who live in the center of town. So that's east and west side.
Thank you very much. Wow, great job tonight. We're going to move to closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and you'll be answering in the reverse order of the opening statement. The timekeeper will give you a 30-second warning. So we will begin tonight with Mrs. Babbitt.
Thank you. Cherry Hill is a diverse, welcoming township with unparalleled potential. As a Board of Education member, should I be elected, I promise to work diligently to ensure that the school district is the one that all others hope to become. You have my promise. If I am elected, I will do the following to the best of my ability. Clearly communicate expectations for the superintendent and monitor and evaluate his performance. Provide proper financial oversight, including ensuring that there are appropriate internal controls, that the district seeks out available grant and sponsorship opportunities, while also looking for ways to save money without negatively affecting quality of education. Create, implement, and oversee a realistic strategic plan that includes short and long-term goals that address the district's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and risks. And finally, uphold the academic excellence of Cherry Hill schools. This means providing a balanced classical education, rooted in truth and accuracy, that focuses on outcomes, reason, and logic, not emotions, politics, or bias. As a teacher, I know that the richest classroom experiences arise from discussion, analysis, and evaluation of multiple viewpoints, all helping students come to their own conclusions and preparing them to ask the right questions as they face future challenges, large and small. Ultimately, the board is the conduit between the district and its taxpayers. That relationship has been marred, particularly during the pandemic. But the time has come for the relationship to be rejuvenated and synergy to be restored, especially with a very important bond referendum on the horizon. Districts that operate openly and honestly enjoy the benefit of having a trusting relationship with the public, which leads to increased support and student success. Our children, our parents, and taxpayers deserve this and so much more. And by working together, I know that all of this is within reach.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gladio.
Our residents paid an average of $9,000 per household in property taxes for the avoidable failure of last school year. The current BoE and superintendent failed our children. An effective BoE should include members with diverse ideologies and the ability to make decisions that will thrust Cherry Hill's educational institutions back towards the academic excellence most of us were accustomed to experiencing prior to last year's failure. The current philosophically homogeneous BoE has been a pass-through for the superintendent's flawed proposals and policies. As many of us have witnessed in practice, our district does not honor all the exemptions written into the governor's executive order regarding mask policies. The district does everything in its power to restrict the rights of parents and their children to make decisions about how and when they can breathe freely. This summer, the overwhelming majority of our families and district administrators, staff, and faculty enjoyed mask-free parties, sporting events, concerts, and various other close-quartered social gatherings. Yet the virtue signalers who make and enforce district policies hypocritically insist that our children continue to be treated like prisoners in their classrooms. As soon as the governor's executive order is lifted, our BoE must ensure us that we parents will be free to decide whether to mask our children, and our educators will be allowed to make the same decisions for themselves. Additionally, we need a guarantee from the BoE that there will not be a mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy for our students, as it is every parent's right to decide what medical procedures are appropriate for their children. As your candidate, I vow to oppose all abusively oppressive and restrictive district policies, and I will work to ensure all exemptions to executive orders and statutes are honored, providing the maximum freedom of choice for our families. Remember the often used phrase, my body, my choice. A vote for Gaudio is a vote for freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gladio. Mrs. August.
Since the start of the pandemic, I've overseen the operations of the Greater Southern New Jersey Food Distribution, which provided weekly meals to the Greater South Jersey community and open to everyone with children. On a weekly basis, over 2,000 children were given 7 breakfasts and 7 lunches at 4 locations over 2 days, both on the east and west side of town. As the rules and regulations changed for the program, I continue to help work on a local grassroots campaign that is turning into a national movement to have meals continue to be offered to all children, regardless of school enrollment. And although the school district is giving out meals, breakfast and lunch to all children, they're no longer giving out weekend meals. They're no longer giving out meals to those who are home on quarantine, and they are unable to give out meals to all students, especially those with specific dietary restrictions. And I'm working to change that. With this and my deep dedication to diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as community collaboration, I'm the right choice for the Board of Education to invoke changes necessary for a successful education for all students.
Thank you. And Mr. Root?
Okay, as I mentioned at the beginning of tonight's event, my kids are my inspiration for doing this, for running for board. And I decided to run after my high schooler Aiden asked me to. This campaign is really centered around our students and how we can make things better for them. From our volunteer team that's empowered over a dozen high schoolers to get involved. My son's had kids out canvassing for us, it's pretty awesome. To our platform that took in student input every step of the way. So with my final 90 seconds, I want to turn it over to a student by reading something Aiden wrote. Hi, Cherry Hill. I want to speak with you tonight about how the vote that you'll make on November 2nd will affect kids like me. In Cherry Hill, we have some pretty great schools. Kids get some amazing academic opportunities here. From our awesome full-day kindergarten program to the long list of AP classes offered in our high schools. To take advantage of these opportunities, though, we have to have the best learning. We have to be learning in the best possible, healthy, safe, and welcoming environment. The Board of Education candidates you'll choose from this year have a lot of power to create those environments or to not. They'll have the power to finally take major action on student mental health or to not. To make our schools more sustainable for our younger siblings and the generations beyond or to not. To center transparency and student voice in their decisions or to not. I asked my dad to make these things happen by running for Board of Ed and creating a platform that has detailed proposals on each of these issues. And now I'm asking you, the voters of Cherry Hill, for your help too. On November 2nd, I'm asking you to vote for Dr. Ben Root for Board of Education in ballot position number 7. Before then, hope you'll check out our website, benforboard.com.
Thank you. And Mrs. Fleischer.
I would like to thank the Zone PTA, the Cherry Hill District, and the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. We covered a lot of information this evening, and hopefully voters gained some insight into the candidates running for the board. If elected, my priorities are fiscal responsibility, equity and inclusion, and dedicating the resources to develop the district of the future. But ideas alone won't get us there. I believe we need leaders with temperament and tenacity to build consensus to get things done. As my bio states, I've dedicated the last 18 years to volunteer leadership to improve the educational experience of our kids in our district. But my candidacy is about the future. I believe we have our work cut out for us on many fronts. Navigating through COVID, bringing people together, fighting for fair funding, and sharpening our vision of what Cherry Hill schools can actually be. I am all in. I ask for your support and hope to have the opportunity to serve the residents of Cherry Hill and to move our schools forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Pacifer.
Thank you. Over the last few years, the school board's been very, as the election's been very tumultuous, a lot of new members, a lot of discussion in the community. And as a district, we need a board of education that's willing to go against the flow. If elected, I feel like I will be able to go against the flow and not just vote along with groupthink. Overall tonight, I'm actually a little shocked that the community didn't submit any questions surrounding the district's lack of ADA compliance, the failure of virtual learning, or massive COVID policies. But they are in my mind as things that we need to work on in the future. I am, as I mentioned earlier, running under the slogan, responsible, invested, bold. So we need to support our school, providing fiscally responsible budget spending for our neighbors and children, while making sure that the primary mission of educating our students is kept up front. I'm invested in the district. My children will be students in the district for the next 20 years or so. Any decisions made by me, if I'm on school board or anyone else, will affect their entire school career. And finally, I'm willing to boldly state what I feel is best for our children, my children, to show that they get the best upbringing and education they can get. Again, my name is John Papiga. Thank you for hosting the event and for those that are watching.
Thank you very much. The League of Women Voters of Camden and Atlantic Counties and the Cherry Hill Zone PTA extend their sincere gratitude to the candidates for participating in this forum and to the audience members who joined us online in order to better inform themselves about this election. Remember to vote on Election Day, Tuesday, November 2nd, or by mail-in ballot, or by in-person early voting Saturday, October 23rd through October 31st. Thank you, and please invite your friends and neighbors to vote as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
This is where you say